Hi, I'm Gemma, and this is a chat with Gemma. So, I want to talk about how stupid people are. So, isn't it amazing how human beings are capable of using their brains in the most amazing ways and doing all kinds of things where people gasp in awe, and then on the other hand, those very same people can do seemingly the most stupid things. It just, I think it's just unfathomable. So I want to talk about girls and ladies and the stupid choices that they make in the sort of men and or boys that they get together with. So about 150 million gazillion trillion years ago, they came up with a little thing called contraception. You might have heard of it. And yet, all the same, girls still seem to, in large numbers, get pregnant to their boyfriend or just some random guy. Like, how does this happen? That is, surely human beings can do better than that. That's not intelligent. And, honest, some of these people, they might say, they were drunk at the time, girls and ladies. And what I would say is, I understand that, and so your mind was not capable of making good decisions at the time. But why were you getting drunk around men? That's so dangerous. I've known of a couple of people, one in particular, I actually know the person, where we don't know, but, it seems that she does not know what even happened. And she produced a baby. So the baby just came from who knows where. So I don't believe she knew the name of the man or even what he looked like. So, of course, she's unable to tell him about his child. And, was her drink spiked? We don't know. So, I think people need to use their brains and do better than this, surely. Because you have a child that's brought into the world, they're not brought into a loving home with a father and a mother who just think that they're the bee's knees. They're sort of not supposed to be there, and they don't have two parents and all of that stuff. And there are still so many women who say that they're a single mother. Well, if you're going to fornicate, why not, I know some people, it's against their religion to take contraception. But if you're going to fornicate, you are already sinning anyway. So why not go the whole hog and use contraception and not bring a baby into the world that's not going to be fully embraced into life and loved and wanted and provided for, because women can never, by and large, earn as much money as a man can. I think it's statistically speaking, overall, it's like 1/3 less. It's quite a big difference. And so, sometimes it's a poverty-stricken life. And women don't need to get into this situation. They might say, they really like sex or whatever. Well, how good is that? Is it like 2.5 hours of beautiful pleasure? Or is it 3 minutes? I think you can do without that. I think you'll live. Despite what the rumours say, pretty sure, ask a doctor, but I'm pretty sure you'll live. You can wait. And the other thing too is women who marry, let's call him a loser because, I don't know him and I'm not naming him, but you know what I'm talking about. And I can think of 2 women that I know who are in my age group, and both of these women had something like 4 or 5, got married, had 4 or 5 children to their husband, and then the husband left them, and I'm not sure about both cases, but certainly in one of them, the husband, went on and found a new wife. And so in both cases, the men were perhaps, I don't know, thinking, I can do better than this. Now she's had 4 or 5 children, she's put on a few pounds, and she looks a bit tired and a bit greyed, and she's not taking care of herself and making herself look sexy, and I'm out of here. Maybe that wasn't the case, but I'm just speculating. And so off he goes and he finds somebody else. So when I say to either of these women, I get the same answer, exactly the same answer, and it's not in words, it's like this. So because, when you've got a family, things come up, and these children sometimes produce their own babies, and dramas come up, and, you've got 2 women working full-time, caring for their children on their own without support, and things can happen, other catastrophes can arise, and medical problems and all kinds of things. And I've said to them, but can't your ex-husband, perhaps pay for that? Or can't your ex-husband help out with that? Or, like there's a baby to be held, and where will I put the baby? Can't your ex-husband come and take his grandchild for a bit or something like that? And in both these cases, these women will always just go like that. So no words, just oh. So these guys are such losers that these women can't rely on them for any kind of help whatsoever, or even financial support, which legally they're supposed to give, for their own children and perhaps grandchildren. But that begs the question, why on earth did these women choose these men to get married to? So girls and ladies, when you're looking for a husband, please do better than that. You should be going into this like a little detective, Examine this person under a microscope. Look at all the, past girlfriends and brothers and sisters, and talk to their parents, see what the family life is like. What's the example they were given growing up of family life? What does family life look like in their minds? And don't be just sort of dazzled by your attraction to them in the moment. Are they going to be around when you're not so good looking anymore? When you are a bit worn out and don't fit into the clothes you used to fit into and that sort of thing. That's just the way life goes. It's going to happen. Is he the sort of guy that's just going to be off as soon as that happens? And you meet the sort of guys that make good family men, and I don't always meet a lot of these guys, actually, but, you know, I do meet them, and all they can talk about is their wife, their kids, I don't know, the holiday they went on, what they've been doing. It's just riveting to them. So you've got a guy who, you know, can't believe how lucky he is that this woman has, you know, taken him on, and he just thinks the sun shines out of her. And then his children are like, to him, there's nothing else in the world but his children. You know, he's just, he would open up his arms and be crucified for them. I mean, literally, some of these guys, you could see them doing that for their children. That's a family man. They're around for the long haul. They're just around forever. There's no question about this. And then you get another kind of guy who, when he talks about his wife, he's got some little jabs to make, you know, little criticisms about this and about that. That always troubles me a lot. And there's one guy who was married to a relative of mine, and he would do that. So she's not around, we're just he and I are chatting, and he would just have little comments to make about, I don't know, you know, time management or choices that she made in regards to her work life or whatever. A lot of it to do with, you know, money situations and things. And it just used to disturb me how much criticism he had to make. Now, if you talk to her, he's gone, just her and I chatting. She never did that. She never, if you criticised him a little bit to her, she would always defend him. And she never said a word against him. But as time went on, it turned out that more and more you couldn't get away from the fact that he had a drinking problem, and then he had become, in the end, no question, he was an alcoholic. And it got to the point where he was certainly verbally abusive a lot, and that went on for a long time. And I don't know why she stayed, because I wouldn't have. And then it got to a couple of incidents where it was not quite that he was violent towards her, but he was looking like he was going to be violent to her, and that not far down the track it was possible that that was going to happen. And so she had the good sense then to get out of there. So if that's happening with you, you need to address that situation, please, because a big, strong man, you know, who's got maybe the start of a drinking problem, it only tends to get worse, and it's just has to be non-negotiable. We've got to go and see somebody together, or we don't go on with this relationship. I've got to keep myself safe, and there's just no ifs or buts about this. Because a woman, you know, with a big, strong man who's drinking more and more and more, and perhaps got some sort of issues going on, is just such a dangerous animal if he's finding fault with her. It's not, you just got to get out of there way, way, way before it starts to get dangerous. And so that's another type of person that you don't want to be around. I think it's good to see a man that you're thinking of marrying in a pub. See them around alcohol. How does that person behave? Does he just immediately get drunk? Does he get drunk easily? It's just, there he is, he's drunk. That's a problem. You know, why can't he go to a pub and have a drink and still be exactly the same? You know, one drink shouldn't alter the way you are at all. And you should be able to have one drink. That's it. We're going now. Or we're going to have some food, or we're still chatting, but I'm not drinking anymore. Why can't he do that? So I would say to girls and ladies of any age, please see yourself as being of greater value. You know, think of a little treasure box and it's got some, I don't know, pure gold coins in there and some rubies and precious stones like emeralds and topaz and things in there, and it's all priceless. You can't find a value for it. It's just priceless. Think of yourself that way. Because in the eyes of God, you are. You're priceless. So think of yourself more highly and make sure that you really, I mean, things can still go wrong, obviously, but you do your very, 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 very best to choose wisely, please. All right. I hope you're well, and bye for now.